Existentialism is a relatively new philosophy often associated with the French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. But before him, people like Soren Kierkegaard and Nietzsche also tried to explain this idea. Other people like Albert Camus and Simone de Beauvoir also tried to explain it. The philosophical position known as existentialism holds that each of us alone is responsible for determining whether our own lives have purpose or meaning. No one, not God, not governments, not teachers, not anyone else in a position of authority, can tell us what our individual purpose and meaning is. Let's look at the world of movies based on this idea. Let's see which of the world's films can be best understood by looking at them through the lens of existentialism. We appreciate you watching. This channel has the best list of unique movies and the most interesting reviews of movies. Please subscribe to the Unique Perspective channel to join us.
In these words, the leading film critics of Europe have honored Ingmar Bergman's new film, Persona. Persona is a knowledge, a terrible knowledge of our loneliness, our estrangement.
Ingmar Bergman wrote the screenplay for the film Persona 1966, while he was hospitalized recovering from a physical illness and also receiving treatment for depression. He did this as a way to keep himself involved in the creative process while he was receiving care for both conditions. The movie is about an actress who stops talking and a nurse who is sent to a remote house on the coast to take care of her. What starts out as a vacation that will be good for both of them soon turns into a game of two people clashing and coming together until they seem to speak with one voice. In his seminal work Phenomenology of Perception, the French philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty makes a number of observations concerning human awareness in relation to both the self and other people. These observations can be taken into consideration when providing philosophical consideration to the film Persona. In his analysis of consciousness, Merleau-Ponty presents the same paradox that defines Bergman's film, which is that self-perception is necessarily filtered through others, but its fluid and inexhaustible dimensions experienced from within contradict the method. It is finite and objective. It is perceived from the outside.
A victory over silence. A new film from Ingmar Bergman, Persona.
You transcended space and time.
Time, not space. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
No. Very, very good!
The story is mostly about the main character, Albert Markovsky, who is played by Jason Schwartzman. He is looking for meaning in his own life and in the universe as a whole, as well as in the strange things that happen to him every day. He hires Dustin Hoffman and Lily Tomlin, who play existential detectives, to watch him and help him figure out how to solve his problem. Heart Huckabees is billed as an existential comedy. Throughout the entirety of the film Heart Huckabees, various characters share their perspectives on a variety of philosophical and existential topics. Heart Huckabees is one of the few movies that discusses existentialist ideas in a straightforward manner, making it one of the rare films in this genre. It is important to conduct in-depth analysis of films like these so that one can gain a deeper understanding of the concepts that are presented in the films.
I hate to break it to you, but he most definitely is.
There's glass between us.
Я Кельвин. Психолог. Насколько я вижу, вы меня не ждали?
Он понимает, что все будет зависеть от его первого сообщения со станции.
Chris is a psychologist who must travel to a distant space station that has begun to send cryptic messages back to Earth after years of researching the nearby planet Solaris. Chris is torn about leaving his home because it means leaving his father with the knowledge that they will most likely never see each other again. Chris finds the space station in disarray, and the remaining crew unhelpful. As the mystery of Solaris unfolds, Chris begins to have strange visions from his past. Tarkovsky, one of the most lauded directors of the 20th century, seamlessly blends stunningly minimalist visuals with a contemplative commentary on humanity's place in the universe. Andrei Rublev and Stalker 2, which were directed by Tarkovsky, make us think about our worldviews and the higher powers that rule our lives. But while the first uses a grim dystopia, the second uses a Christian Russia in the 15th century to show how complicated faith can be. But it is this science fiction epic that manages to put all of Tarkovsky's existential worries into a one-man ship and then send it hurtling into the unknown.
I have a lot of problems.
Going through some things. I'm hurt. Am I dying? Can you tell me that?
I can't tell you.
You can't tell me?
No.
Charlie Kaufman's films have been described as paying considerable attention to the nature of human persons, and his directorial debut, Synecdoche, New York, does not deviate from this existentialist theme. The film lends itself to both philosophic and psychoanalytic readings as it explores the human condition, specifically the intimacy between life and death, and how the finitude of life influences man to strive to leave something important behind. Synecdoche, New York, Charlie Kaufman's cinematic masterpiece, is in many ways an investigation of life and being through various motifs prevalent throughout the film's 124 minutes. Kaufman attempts to answer Martin Heidegger's question, what does it mean to exist? Kaufman uses a severely impaired sense of reality to explain anxiety, authenticity, and being toward death in his exploration of being.
What do I smell like?
It's like you're menstruating. I don't know.
I don't menstruate, so I don't know. I can smell like I'm menstruating.
You tell me.
I've been following you for 20 years.
How did we end up here? This place is horrible. Smells like balls. We had it all. You were a movie star.
Birdman, directed by Alejandro González Iñárritu and starring Michael Keaton, is a 2014 black comedy drama film. It follows Regan Thompson, a washed-up actor best known for his role in a series of films as the superhero Birdman, as he tries to resurrect his career by writing, directing, and starring in a Broadway adaptation of Raymond Carver's short story. The struggle to let go of how we've defined ourselves and accept who we really are is part of what it means to be human. Our true identities change as we go through life. It takes a lot of courage to stick with the fight, especially since we may feel hopeless at times. It's called an existential crisis sometimes. When we are trying to fit into a new, more satisfying identity, it can be hard. Each of us will face this struggle in a different way and at a different time in our lives.
Baby, can you understand me now? Sometimes
Listen, everybody, I want you all to be quiet. I've got Ben's college yearbook here, and I just want to read you some of the wonderful things about Ben.
The Graduate is based on Charles Webb's 1963 novel of the same name, and it looks at the kind of existential angst that often comes with losing hope in our youth. The story is about Benjamin Braddock, a 21-year-old overachiever who just graduated from college and can't seem to figure out how to deal with the uncertainty of the future. Benjamin has been successful throughout his life by following the path that others have paved for him, but he gives up when faced with the challenge of making a decision for himself. If we watch the movie with an existentialist point of view, we will notice that many of the characters have an existentialist perspective or way of looking at the world. Existentialists frequently harbor skepticism regarding their own genuine identities, as well as the significance of life and the overall point of their own lives. This movie is an existential humanist allegory, and it has strong echoes of the narrative of Soren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher who is considered to be the founder of existentialism.
I do think you should know that my wife and I are getting a divorce soon.
What happened between Mrs. Robinson and me was nothing.
What is it to be human? What is it to ache? What is it to be alive? Each person you speak to...
Michael Stone is leaving his Los Angeles home to give a speech in another city. He's a keynote speaker at a conference and the author of a best-selling book on customer service. The cab drivers banter about the city's chili on the way to the hotel, the fake friendliness of the front desk clerk and the bellhop, and all the other minor details that make up a trip like this are all mundane. Until you realize that everybody else besides Michael, be they adult or child, has Michael's voice. This is what Michael's mundane life has come to. Even when he arranges to meet the ex-lover he dumped years ago at the hotel bar, he can't tell her apart from the other patrons because her voice sounds exactly like everyone else's, though, it must be said, quite a bit angrier. Like the screenplays for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Being John Malkovich that Kaufman wrote, Anomalisa is about the mysterious prison of identity and consciousness, the need to be freed from this prison by love, and the sickening pain of unrequited passion or that reveals the true nature of a person. The story takes place in a hotel called the Fregoli, which is a psychiatric term for a rare disorder in which a person falsely believes that different people are actually the same person who is merely disguised.
But I don't like to fly.
I said it's okay. You can let go now, though.
Slutar du aldrig att fråga?
Nej. Jag slutar aldrig.
The Seventh Seal is another Bergman movie here. It's about a disappointed knight who, after coming back from the Crusades, plays chess with death. During his journeys, the knight says that his life doesn't have a purpose and that he wants to do one meaningful deed. During their travels, the knight and his group of followers meet a lot of different people, each of whom has their own morals and ideas about death and the afterlife. The film's setting in the Middle Ages does not obscure its focus on existentialist ideas. When it comes to historical accuracy, Bergman doesn't give a hoot. Rather, he examines the meaning of life and death through the events and archetypes of the characters. This means that the film's message transcends both the Middle Ages and its own time period to be relevant in the modern day as well. The film is not from a time period that our modern minds can't grasp. The question remains, however, as to whether the current social climate values such timeless concepts. The phrase "the seventh seal," which appears at the beginning and end of the film, is taken from the Bible, and when the Lamb had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour.
Lockar döden till ett parti schack. Ty innan han dör vill han ha gjort en enda meningsfull.
Nathalie, il faut que je te dise, j'ai rencontré quelqu'un.
T'aurais pas pu le garder pour toi?
Je vais partir vivre avec elle.
Things to Come is a well-made and relatively recent addition to the canon of existential films written and directed by Mia Hansen-Leviat, the French director. The film is fundamentally about philosophy and the effect of self-reflection and contemplative thought on our lives. Natalie, a philosophy professor in her mid-40s who suffers two devastating losses in quick succession. Despite still clinging to the philosophical theories that define her, Natalie must pick up the pieces of her life and attempt to make sense of the chaos. The title of the film is an essential insight. Much of Natalie's life has already transpired, but she will always be bridging the gap between the closed chapters and the open ones with a mixture of anxious and hopeful anticipation. Time is the only unifying truth in all of the human experience, and it will ultimately win out in any philosophical debate. Past and present are two incomplete statues, wrote Chateaubriand. The one has been dug up from the earth, in a mutilated condition, and the other stands unfinished, and can only be completed by the future.
The hands will turn away my days, but you remain.
Jeanne Dielman, a widow raising her teenage son Sylvain, lives a humdrum routine life in a cramped apartment in Brussels. Jeanne spends her days doing mundane domestic tasks like grocery shopping, cooking, and housework, and occasionally works as a prostitute to make ends meet. She appears to have accepted her fate without complaint until a series of minor disruptions to her routine bring about significant developments. Albert Camus and Immanuel Kant are two philosophers who have written about the absurd things we have to go through in life. Franz Kafka showed this in his classic book The Trial, which is about a man named Joseph K., who is arrested, tried, and convicted without ever knowing what he was charged with. Imagine Sisyphus, a man who Zeus made push a heavy rock up a hill, then for it to roll back down and force him to do it again. Since 1975, the movie has been analyzed. It always stood out among the many mesmerizing French New Wave and feminist films of the era. It's been praised, canonized, and taught in film and acting classes. In the decades since its release, it's been called a feminist critique, a domestic drama, a cult classic, and a static film that tests viewers' attention spans. The New York Times declared Jeanne Dielman's film to be the first true masterpiece by a female filmmaker when it was released. Sight and Sound magazine's Top 100 Greatest Films Critics poll from 2022 named it the best movie of all time, surpassing even Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo and Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. This film tied with Tokyo Story to place fourth in Sight and Sound's 2022 Directors Poll as the fourth best film of all time.
Mademoiselle. Non, c'est pas ça. Ils sont un peu...